Hello, everyone. Welcome to Philly Sports Now, a Philly fan podcast. My name is Zach. With me is Andrew, and we're back here to talk all things Philly sports. Now, because this is coming right after the bad-looking loss, 10-0, Philadelphia Phillies against the Houston Astros. But I'll tell you what, Andrew. Contrary to popular belief, I am not here to panic. I am actually very okay and not shocked at all with today's loss. A lot of that has to do with the horrendous pitching by none other than Tajon Walker in the first 5 innings, or did he only do 4? I mean, horrendous, right? He gave up
5 in 1 inning and then 6 total.
Sure, I was watching the game. I was home. It was a bad game. It was, I mean, nothing more to say to that. I mean, offense didn't really get moving. A lot of men left on bases again. Kind of same story as old as time when it comes to a zero offensive game, right? I mean, it's hard to blame Walker entirely when you come out 10-0. It's not like we lost 10-9, but I'm sure it's not easy to get the literal ball going when you're just losing run after run. I mean, momentum's gonna throw it in the opposite direction pretty quickly there. But as I said, I am not shaken. I'm not that surprised, and there's a couple of reasons. And then after I give my kind of thing, I'll let Andrew talk. We'll get his input on the series as a whole against the Houston Astros. We'll get his input on the Kansas City Royals series because he was there for 3 straight games. And that all being said, when we'll wrap it up, we'll talk some Atlanta Braves holiday weekend preview, I guess is the best way to say it. But all in all, what I'm trying to get at right now is I was not shocked that we lost today. And the reason was we started Walker. When I saw we were starting Walker, I was like, all right, probably an L. And I'm okay with that, and here's why. We already won the series. We won the first 2 games against the Houston Astros. Would I have liked to sweep them? Absolutely. That is without given. I can't say that I'm shocked because we have a 4-game series coming up against the Atlanta Braves, and I'm happy we won this series. I'm happy we beat the Astros. But at the end of the day, when you're looking at the National League standings at the end of the year, when it comes to playoff time, what really matters isn't this Astros series. It's going to be this upcoming Braves series, especially when we're only 6 games ahead and you have 4 games ahead of you, and it could turn like that, right? That's the crazy thing about playing the person that's right behind you in the standings. So I'm totally okay with them saving their pitching staff for the upcoming games. And I mean, there's no breaks either, right? We're going right into it tomorrow with the Braves. I don't know what the deal is with Walker. We have to use him, it seems. It kind of seems like it's a requirement. But when it comes to saving your bullpen and your strong guns, I definitely think this Braves series is going to be more important. Could the Astros be your potential villains of the World Series? Yeah. But that being said, again, you're throwing that's the American League. And I think we've talked about it before. I feel like not a lot this year, but Andrew and I have definitely talked in the past about Phillies being a chess of sorts, right? Like baseball with the long-term sport is a practical, it's an intelligent thing to play the game. So you set your pieces up to win every day, sure, but save your better pieces for certain games over others. And I think that's what happened here. I think it was still a bad loss, but I'm just not as worried about it. Simply put, because we already won the series. If I had to guess, everyone was kind of a little like weight off of their shoulders tonight. You know, not saying they took it lightly, but it's definitely easier to take this loss having 2 wins under the belt, right? So, yeah, I think that pretty much covers how I felt about today specifically. That wraps up my Astros feelings pretty well too, because at the end of the day, I'm happy we won the series because I think I think the series is a statement. Of course, I don't have Andrew, have we played the Astros already this year? Was this the first
But
time?
it's first time. It's the first and only time. Yeah.
That's what with the American League, I always forget. Like, how many times you're not supposed to play them that much. Um, and I don't remember every game perfectly. But that being said, the only time we played the Astros and we beat them, like overall, we beat them. So I'm happy. Am I upset about today? Sure, but I am not going nuts. I think the boos were justified at Walker because of how badly he did, but I also think the team as a whole, we're gonna get into a good spot for this Brave series, and I'm excited to talk about that too. But Andrew, yeah, how do you feel? Let's focus on the Astros series right now. Then we'll go back, and then we'll go forward.
Yeah. So I'm with you. Obviously, it's great. You go, you take the series. You needed it. You get your second straight series win overall. Um,
I completely forgot
first,
that. Very good point. Yes.
yeah, first one against Kansas City, and then you come here and come back home and you get a big series win over another first place team. Like you mentioned, um, obviously it doesn't impact the NL standings, but it's nice to get a series win over a very good team who you might possibly see down the road in October and early November. But I was really happy with this series in terms of the pitching. Um, a lot of times in this All Star break, and we've talked about it, or sorry, since the All Star break, not the All Star break, as a month ago. Um, but I know a lot of times we've talked about it on this podcast. Is since the All Star break, we've put ourselves in spots to win, and you've seen Jose Alvarado blow games. You've seen other guys in the back end of the bullpen blow games, and it's come down to pitching, not executing. These last few games, even in that Braves series, I know you lost 2 out of 3, but you gave up 3, 2, and 3. So that falls more in the offense. So I'm really intrigued with the way the pitching has improved and progressed back to what we kind of saw early on in the season. And you saw that in this Astros series in the games you won. You gave up 2 runs and then 0 runs. And it's a shame. I don't know why. I know it sounds. I don't know why you continue to do this to Walker. I mean, seriously, like at this point, he just continues to struggle. And to your point, the boos are justified, and we know how Philly is. Like fans aren't going to even give him really a chance, right? Like with how bad it's really been. I mean, he's already behind the 8 ball from the start. Kind of dating back, right? Let's take a look at his previous starts, right? You look at this week, right? He went for the series sweep. It was a disaster, right? You look at the Kansas City series. Guess what game he pitched and started? That Friday the 23rd game where you lost. That was a potential or another potential sweep, and obviously that's the first game of the series. But you took the next 2, and he couldn't get out of the fourth inning in that one. Let's go to his previous start. You took 3 straight against Washington. We're going for a 4-game sweep. Guess who pitched that loss on the 18th? That was also Walker, who didn't get out of the fourth inning. So the trend is clearly there. You had 3 potential sweeps since August 15th, right? We talk about a team that's been struggling and on the path where we were in the start of the season. And you look at 3 of our last 4 series, you had a chance to go get a sweep, right? Guess who was the guy that blew it? It was Walker. And I think it's time to move on. Whether you want to do an IL stint or maybe move him to the pen if you don't want to. That way he's only throwing here or there. But it's a shame. I like the direction the team is overall because I really think we have turned that corner. But I mean, there's a common trend right now, and it is Walker, as you mentioned too.
Yeah, I mean, it's tough, dude. It's tough. It's just I think you said it good, like well by saying like it's unfair to him almost in a sense that like that we keep putting him in this situation and expecting a different result, right? Like he's just it's not changing. And my issue, it's always the thing that comes back, but like come playoff time, where's his place in all this, right? Like it's one thing to have him play game 3 of a series you've already won, right? Oh, maybe we sweep, maybe we don't. But come playoff time, where do you put him in? Do you put him at game 1, risk risk the
Well,
momentum of the series? Do you put him at game 2 and you're like, okay, well, maybe we have one win and you're okay giving up the other, so it goes 1-1? Like that's what I think about in the sense that there really is no gimmick game like you just described come playoff time. Like it's just that's just not something we can afford. So I in this team that has especially, and you mentioned it briefly or otherwise at this point, I don't know, I'm talking too much, but like you mentioned how like we had two straight series wins, right? And it's the first time in I think it was 2 months, like definitely the first time since the All-Star break. Like this team feels good right now, right? Like we're getting that steam rolling, the build up, the momentum's here. This is it. We've been waiting for this moment since the All-Star break, and it's finally happening again, and it's time to get excited. But that being said, the Walker situation is the problem. We talked last time about Rob Thompson. Make sure you're watching our videos on YouTube or listening to old episodes. They're all on Spotify. This will be the first new one on YouTube because of a technical error with the others. But that being said, um, I think Topper is going to more or less be the same guy he always is. Like we can talk about him all night long. I can do it, but at the end of the day, he's not going to change who he is. So I feel like that's almost just a waste of time. Whereas Walker, that's the issue. I could talk about in a sense of a genuine concern because again, in a playoff series, where do you put him? Because if he's starting because he needs to be, that's a problem.
Yeah, so just to bounce off a couple things you said there. First off, to answer your question about where you put him, he's not on the postseason roster. He wasn't on it last year. They thought maybe he could have a bounce back year. They know they're paying him a lot of money. They know they're kind of handicapped in this contract that they gave him. And you know what? I will say this: I don't fault Dave Dombrowski for giving him that contract. He was not this bad coming over from the Mets. Like at the time of the signing, I thought it was a pretty good signing to be your 4 or 5 starter. I don't think anyone could have predicted it to be this bad. And so he didn't make it last year because he kind of started this drop off a little bit towards the end of last season. So he didn't make it last year. And listen, there's no need to have him on the roster this year either because when you kind of shorten your rotation a little bit into 4 games, right, for the playoffs. So
Yep.
you'll have Wheeler, Nola, Suarez, and Sanchez, and then you bring an extra bullpen guy up from the minors is what I would do. So I don't think he'll make it. Number 2, off your Topper point, this is all my opinion. But I think this decision is truly coming from higher up. I know we always talk about that with how Howie and Jeffrey Lurie sometimes control, right? We think sometimes they make some of those
The
decisions.
office is the problem.
I truly think Walker is partly because Dave made that contract. That decision's coming from higher up a little bit. You listen to some of Topper's post-game conferences, right? Last week after the loss to Kansas City where he pitched, and he's talking about, he liked some of his spots where, his velocity looked like it was climbing a little bit. Like, come on. Rob Thompson's been around baseball for a while, right? You really think he's going to, I know he's not going to come out and, rip the guy apart in his first, but you really think he's intrigued because, he hit 94 miles per hour maybe on 2 pitches in a game where he couldn't get out of the 4th inning? Like, this guy's been around baseball. Like, I didn't get a chance to see his post-game comments today, but, I have a hard time believing a guy that's been in baseball for over 20 years now is going to come out and say that kind of stuff. He's intrigued by the guy's velocity.
I think the best summary for what you're saying is if we're seeing it, Rob Thompson's seeing it.
Exactly. Yeah. Like, and his velocity, and he lives on the split finger pitch, and you need velocity. And his velocity was 94, 95 when he was throwing his best last year, and he's barely hitting 91 now. So I know he dealt with some injuries in spring training. I don't want to say it's all that, but he had some injuries, had a bad spring training, came back, had the blister. So maybe it is injuries, and a full off season is going to do him well. But yeah, Philly's got to figure this out because I get it. You have a nice lead going into this series with the Braves, but listen, you still want home field. You still want best record in the National League. And right now you're tied with the Dodgers. That's fantastic, obviously, but can you really throw a game? And I don't want to your point earlier too, I know you mentioned it. You don't think they're just saying, we're taking today off, right? But, as fans, right, we're going into this game like, oh, man, Walker's pitching again, right? How do you think the players are feeling, right? They're probably thinking the same thing. We got to go out and score 7 to 10 runs to win this game. They're kind of pressing too, it seems like, in these at-bats, right? You put up 11 runs back-to-back games against Kansas City, and then you come back home in a hitter-friendly park, and you win 2 games, and then this game you put up 0. I mean, it almost seems like it's affecting the team's play overall too. And I hate to say that, but it truly looks like it.
Well, I think that's valid, dude. I think that's exactly the kind of thing that's happening because again, it's not even so much the players see Walker's pitching, but it's I don't know if you saw it, but I could see it in the field and even in the people that were in the dugout. But when he let 5 runs happen in the fourth inning, you could see like everyone just kind of like slump in on the Phillies team. Like because there's only so much that everyone else can do, right? Like the pitcher is it's the goalie of hockey. It's I don't necessarily want to say the quarterback, but like it when it comes to defense, the pitcher is half the battle, right? So when he walks guys and you have bases like what was it, two men on, and the guy or no, the homer was only one man on, correct? And then I think the other was
I don't know.
oh,
Jordan Alvarez at 3.
that's what, dude. It was so bad, and like, when that happens, that's the moment that the Phillies like, okay, like,
Here we go again.
because after the first inning, you're like, all right, we're gonna get a run. We had to get one anyway to win, right? Like that's how it works, right? But then you let he let he let 5 runs in 1/2 inning, and it was just like, oh. And again, if we're seeing that, so are the players, so are Topper, and that's just it's a bad moment in the game, and you just have to you have to build around it. I think I don't really have much else to say, and again, I am excited for this Brave series, so I'm kind of keeping a lot, I guess, in the barrel for that discussion wise, but Andrew, I guess anything else for the Astros? Again, I wasn't able to see yesterday's game. I was able to see the first game with the walk off, and that was awesome. And it's like that's the kind of win that some people are like, oh, I want to win. And it's like, no, dude, against the Astros, that's good. I love it. That's a win in my book against the Astros. The Astros are a good team. The Astros are predicted to be the American League, World Series contender again. Like, I'll take a walk off win against the Astros. No, I'm happy with the series overall. Yeah, I just think Walker is he's a dead man walking, unfortunately. So,
Oh,
Andrew, any other Astros topics before we move on to we'll do Royals.
I was just gonna say for sure to your first point there with the walk off win, and then last night, yeah, you ended up winning 5-0, but I mean it was a good solid game. And I say last night, I mean Tuesday night.
Right.
But it was a good solid game overall. Like it felt, and I think I put this in our group chat too. Like especially that first game, right? That felt like a playoff game, right? You had your ace on the mound and wheel. He threw a gem. You go get that win in extra innings. Nola, same thing. He follows up with a gem. 7 innings, no run. Like that felt like 2 playoff games, and that and it just stinks go, and then heading into that next one, right? So
Yeah.
that's why I'm really intrigued with those first 2 games, is because you treated those like a playoff game. You came out and executed it like a playoff game, and it really felt good to see that against the team again you might see in October. And yeah, as we get into the Royals series, that's another team you might see in October. So here we go.
And especially again, I'm going to say it one more time, but when you have upcoming a Braves team that you basically hope to not see in October. Um so yeah, so let's talk Royals. Andrew, you got to see let me pull this back up here, but you got to see all 3 games, correct?
Yes, I was
So
in attendance for all 3.
that was pretty sweet. You got to see a series win. Um, so we had 1 loss, 2 wins, no sweep. That's fine. Uh, but yeah, Andrew. I mean, I don't. I mean, first of all, great to get the wins. Gotta keep breaking them in. We're at what? Hold on, I just had it up. 78, I think, is our overall right now. I know you said we're tied with Dodgers, and we have the tiebreaker, if I remember correctly. So we're good there, which is great. Uh, I guess Andrew, before you do your Kansas City recap, no, I'll save this for later. Tell us how Kansas City was. Tell us how the stadium was. Have you seen that stadium before? Yeah, just how was it?
Yeah, so it was my second time at Kauffman Stadium. I went 2 summers ago. Saw them play Baltimore, and then this time, I don't get to see the Phillies too much anymore. So it was a little under 5 hours, about 4 hours, 4 hours, 50-minute drive. So I was like, you know what, can't pass this up. So uh, took a few hours off of work, headed down, and then stayed there the whole weekend. It was great. I really like Kansas City. Um, I had a hotel that was maybe a little more than a half mile away, if that, and just
You
walked to every
walk?
game.
That's
Didn't have to
awesome.
pay. Didn't have to pay for parking. Save money on parking. Walked to every game. It was great. I'll tell you what. I mean, obviously this is a bonus too. But before I get into the actual games in the stadium, but like their tickets are cheap too. So I mean, pretty good seats. Most I paid, I think, was $25 for a game. So I mean,
Wow.
it was good. Yeah, no, a good overall experience. I like that stadium too. They got a really cool Hall of Fame section in the stadium. It's not kind of just like it's not just on a wall. They actually have like a little indoor thing built inside the stadium for their Hall of Fame. So that was cool to see again. And shout out to Carlos Estevez, got his autograph.
Nice.
He was signing for some Phillies fans. Um, so he was pretty cool. Just got traded at the deadline and already trying to embrace the fan base. So that was cool to see. But no,
What'd you
yeah,
get signed?
overall, I got a card signed. I got back into collecting cards a little bit. So
You don't have a Phillies card of him already, do you?
no, I was an Angels.
Okay.
But
It's like that can't be possible. That's outrageous.
yeah, it was just an Angels card. But yeah, it was cool. I would say the one weird thing was there was a lot of. Well, first off, the Phillies fans. It was great, right? Ton of Phillies fans, but there was a handful of fans that, and I talked to a few of them actually. There was a handful of fans that were in Kansas City hats and Phillies jerseys, and I've just never seen that before. Like with Phillies fans, like it was just amazing. Like
Were they you said you talked to them. Were they local Kansas City people that were Phillies fans?
I talked to a couple of them, and the one guy, I can't remember where he's from, but he was from the Philly area, went to Wichita State, and now lives out there. That's where he lives now. So I get it. He's watched a lot of Kansas City stuff, but you're still from
But
Philly.
you don't bring the Kansas City hat. That's what I
Yeah,
have a
that's
I have a
that's like
Pirates
me.
hat, but you don't bring the Pirates hat
Yeah,
when they play each other. You rep the full
yeah.
garb.
It's like me. I went to Oklahoma State, so I moved down to Oklahoma. Been here for a while now, and that'd be like me wearing a Thunder hat with a Sixers jersey when the
Yeah.
Sixers come down to the Thunder games. You're not gonna see me doing that.
No, that's out.
But
That's dumb. That dude's dumb. You're dumb.
it wasn't one. It was many. So that was strange because I've never, usually when I went to St. Louis, right, for the Phillies Cardinals, it wasn't like Phillies Cardinals guy. It was all Phillies gear. So it was just weird. I get it. Kansas City's in the American League, so I think that's more why it was like that. But yeah, I've just never really seen that from
I
fans, so it was different to see. But
The reason
again,
I
ton
asked,
of ton
I
of
was
red.
curious if and because I wouldn't be surprised. Phillies are we've talked about before. Like there's a guy in my office that's this way, but Phillies are kind of building up a nationwide bandwagon fan base with how I'd say good they are, to put it bluntly, but also how fun of a team they are. Between the guys Harper, Casti, Turner, Realmuto, like they're just a fun bunch.
Yeah,
Plus, they're good. So nationally, they are kind of building up a bandwagon team effect. And I'm curious how many of those fans are like, oh, we're Royals fans converted to the Phillies, but I'm gonna rep both my stuff. You know what I mean? Like that's what that felt like. I feel like that guy that you talked to is like, I don't know. That's just look, dude.
my guess is his wife's a Kansas City fan, so he's wearing the Kansas City hat.
You gotta have your boundaries, man. You gotta have in your relationship. There's some give and there's some take. And if you can't stand on your own 2 feet with your sports teams, you gotta get out of there. That's crazy talk. That's absolutely crazy talk. But yeah, Andrew, keep on going.
But yeah, no, it was funny too. Yeah, again, a lot of Phillies fans. The guys behind me on the Saturday game. I don't know how many times I just heard them talking to each other, right? And it was just, why are there so many Phillies fans here? Like, because you got to remember that Kansas City team, they're fighting for first place in the division. So that place should be
Yeah, they're
so
a good
like it's
team.
yeah, it's not like we're facing a bad team. Like yeah, they're 70+ win team too. So it was cool. I was surprised too that stadium. It's not even one of the bigger ones, but it wasn't that full either. So I was kind of surprised. And I get it was hot, but I mean,
Yeah, but a weekend game.
yeah, the first day I had a really good attendance because the bobblehead giveaway, but Saturday and Sunday were a little underwhelming for me for a first place team. For the 3 games, again, Friday was a bobblehead giveaway, so I get that one being packed. But the next two, I was just surprised with, again, them being a first place team. I expected it more close to a sellout, but again, I had fun. That's what matters, and
Yeah.
I saw 2 Phillies wins. So
No, it is a weird situation, and like you saw weekend games too. It's not even like it was a Monday through Thursday
yeah,
game in the afternoon kind of a thing. Like that is weird. They're weekend games. They're fighting for first place. They're a good team. Like yeah, I don't know. I'm glad you saw a series win because I could see that being dropped. It's a away series for the Phillies. Good team. But no, I'm glad you saw the win. I'm glad the Phillies fans are showing up. Hearing a lot about that with Brazil. Apparently there's a Philly there's an Eagles Brazil fan base that is like ready to take over that stadium apparently, which is pretty wild. According to the Farsi show. So that's kind of exciting. But yeah, I guess, and if you had nothing else, just to kind of wrap it up with the Phillies Braves series.
yeah. No, I mean that World Series the offense came out strong. It was cool to see them kind of come out of that offensive slump. You get 11 runs back to back nights. And you know what? Let's give a shout out to a guy who's been struggling all year. He deserves it. I like Garrett Stubbs that Sunday game, going 4 for 4, reaching base a 5th time with the hit by pitch, a home run shy of the cycle. You know what? He brought his average up from like 193 to like 210 that day. So you know what? Shout out to Garrett Stubbs that day. He needed a good game and he got it.
Put in the work. He put in the work.
Yeah. So
Yeah, definitely. But yeah, so looking ahead, we now have a 4-game series against the Atlanta Braves, which we've talked about, and I'm just gonna kind of reiterate everything I've said. For starters, this is for all the marbles, right? If I actually pull up the schedule, the upcoming schedule, but just to confirm, yep, this is the last time we're gonna play the Braves this year, other than the playoffs if needed. So, big rivalry game, right? I can't stress this enough. We are, I guess, technically 5.5 now after today. It's already updated. 5.5 games ahead of them. When you play 4 games, God forbid you drop all 4, that's all of a sudden 1.5. You know what I mean? Like that series they're looking at it like this is our time to shine. And so the Phillies are hopefully looking at it as this is our time to shove them in the dirt where they belong and leave them there. Dig their grave, let them lie, leave them alone for the rest of the year. Because that's what this could be. If you go out there and you win, I'll tell you right now, I'm hoping for 3. I want 3 wins minimum. I want the sweep. This I want swept. This is bring your brooms out, get your vacuums out, get your Swiffers. I want to sweep them clean, if I'm honest with you. But I definitely want to see 3 wins against the Atlanta Braves because it's huge. It's not just a statement, but it's just solidifying your first place in the division this year, right? Which we have not had in the past 2 seasons when we've made playoff runs. Like that was this season started, and I at this point forget who it was, if it was Harper or Topper or hell, it could have been Middleton. But someone said we wanted the division. And this is it, man. This is the moment to go seal that and make that happen. This might be one of, if not the most important series of the year, in my opinion.
yeah, it's gonna go. The Braves need 3. Let's just say that from the start, right? You have this team coming in. They're honestly one of the hottest teams in baseball. They're 8-2 in their last 10, and it's going to be a 5-game lead or it's going to be a 6-game lead, depending on how the Braves game currently finishes. As we record this, they're up 3-1 in the 7th inning. So assuming they hold on and win that game, it'll be down to 5 because they'll pick up another half game, as you mentioned, currently 5.5 out. Um, so we'll see what happens there. So to your point, if you're the Phillies, you can't lose 3, right? Obviously, I'm with you. You want the sweep. I would love to get 3, but the Phillies' most important thing here is the split. Keep 5 games. That's what you got to do. You can't lose 3, get it down to a 3-game lead. You obviously can't get swept and get it down to 1-game lead. But yeah, it'd be nice if you win 3, you extend that back up 2 games, and you're looking at 7 after the weekend. And that's why you shifted your rotation, right? That's why you picked Sanchez. You got your 4 best pitchers this weekend. The Phillies are treating this as important as you just mentioned. They want to
And
win the
that's
division. They're
I'm
treating
so
this like
excited
a
about that. They are in that's it, right, dude? That is it. They that was what I said at the start. And I truly mean it and I believe it. They are getting ready for the 4 most important games of the rest of the year. Luna, I swear to God, Luna, get down from there. Luna. Look.
animals.
Luna.
Animals.
Luna. Luna. You bet your ass that's staying in. But um hi.
Come here.
Yeah, cat. Yeah. Yeah, dude. I mean, let's look at the 4 pitchers that are set to start, right? We have did I go in the wrong direction? Okay, there we go. We have Christopher Sanchez tomorrow, Thursday game. Friday, we have Ranger Danger on the mound. Saturday, sorry, the computer slow. Saturday, we have Wheels up. And then Sunday, if it really loads, we're back to Nola, right? Like I mean, star power right there when it comes to our starting pitchers.
Yeah, and that's really where you have to take advantage. It's your pitching. Luckily, it's going to be a fun Cy Young race. It's going to be Chris Sale of the Braves versus Zach Wheeler of the Phillies. I think those are your 2 leading Cy Young candidates. Maybe you can throw in the Pirates young guy, obviously Paul Skeens. I think he came up a little late to be Cy Young. So strictly keep it Chris Sale versus Zach Wheeler. You missed Chris Sale. You missed the Braves' best pitcher. He's pitching tonight. They didn't readjust the rotation, right? So you have to take advantage of that. That's an extra game you won.
It's huge. It's absolutely huge that we're not playing their best pitcher in this series. And I actually think that's crazy that they didn't plan for that.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. And tomorrow, right? We talk about Sanchez. He seems to figure it out again. You're facing Charlie Morton. He's a veteran pitcher, been around the game for a while, but you know what? He's a guy struggled for it. He's ERA's in the 4. Take advantage of that, right? Ranger Suarez going against Ronaldo Lopez, another great pitcher. He doesn't have the innings for Cy Young, or else he'd probably be in the conversation. So that's going to be a great pitching matchup. One like you might have seen Monday night against the Astros. And to counter Wheeler is Max Fried on Saturday, who's been up and down at certain points in the year. And then on Sunday, I'm going to try to say his name, Swellenbach. Not the best pitcher, but for some reason the Phillies can't hit him. He's crushed just the last 2 games he's faced us. So that's a guy you're going to have to figure out. Unfortunately, I'm not a big fan of it. Fortunately, it's Sunday Night Baseball. I get it. Phillies Braves, last one of the year. You do got to hype it up, but it's not like Sunday Night Football. It just doesn't do it for me.
Certainly don't.
I don't mind when the Eagles are on Sunday Night Football, but I just can't get behind Sunday Night Baseball for some reason. I like it when I watch like some 2 other teams, like if it was Yankees Astros or something. I don't mind that, but I don't know. I just don't like Phillies Sunday Night Baseball.
That's because you don't mind getting comfortable in bed or on the couch watching a game you have no commitment to. Whereas if it's 9:30 at night, you're going to be on the edge of your seat if it's the Phillies.
I agree. I just don't feel the same way with football, though. Like, to that point, I don't know. Like, I don't mind when the Eagles are on Sunday night.
See, I am exactly the way I just described for the Eagles. So I like Sunday Night Football, but at the end of the day, I'm also way more actively watching it if the Eagles are playing Sunday night. So like Monday is a wash. You know what I mean? Like I'm going to be up till midnight watching football. I'm basically not functional till noon the next day. It's ridiculous. But like Phillies, it's yeah. So I mean that's kind of the thing there. But hey, it's 4 games, so you can pick and choose if you need to be.
Right. No, yeah, so I'm excited. This is gonna be a fun weekend. I know the fans are gonna show out. It's gonna be like a playoff type atmosphere. It's gonna be a fun weekend. I think you're gonna get 4 close games, whether you win 4, lose 4, win 2, win 3, whatever it's gonna be. I think you get 4 close games. It's just the way the Phillies and Braves play each other. I mean, you look at it, what, just a week ago when we played them, you lost 2, won 1, but you know what? All 3 games were close.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, it's just the way these guys go, and you know what? You got to give credit when credit's due. Even though I can't stand Atlanta, but it is kind of remarkable what they have been able to do with every injury they've dealt with this year. I mean, I know the Phillies have had their handful, but we at least have our guys coming back. They're missing their MVP candidate every year in Ronald Acuna. They're missing their Cy Young candidate every year in Spencer Strider. So 2 devastating injuries, and they man out in the deadline and made moves, and that's why they're still contending 72 and 60. Obviously, we'll find out if they're still in the division race after this weekend or not. But credit again, you gotta give credit where credit's due, and you gotta give credit to that Braves team for continuing to find ways to win with the adversity they have faced this year, and they'll come in winning 8 of the last 10. So they're playing. It's not like they're scratching 500 over the last 10. No, they're arguably the hottest team in baseball, coming in and winning 8 of 10. So it's time to change that and not knock them around a little bit.
Another thing is that they have kind of the lead on us this year as a whole, right? If I counted correctly, we're 2-4 against them as a as a season whole. So, definitely want to even that out a little bit. Like that is the kind of thing we're talking about. That is what makes this series so crucial because you've already given up so many to this specific team. And now it's the end of the season. You're back home. Your backs are kind of against the wall, maybe a little room to spare, but like this is it. This is kind of storybook moments. Sometimes the movie ends here kind of things, right? Like this is a big series. I'm excited to watch it. I'm sure you are too. And I'm excited to see we gotta see some wins. We gotta see some wins for sure. I want to see 3 minimum because that puts us at a tied season series if I did that correctly.
Yep,
And
you
that
did.
that would be huge. 500 against the Braves for the year. Man, I would be happy. Man, you sweep them and you get that one extra win. Atlanta Braves, you fans better watch out because I'll be on Twitter like that. I'll be stalking all y'all on Twitter like that. Um, no, I'm excited. So let's do a little bit of a future talk here. Kind of hinted at a couple of things. Let's start off with just kind of the obvious. So we have, man, I'm gonna butcher the hell out of this, but quick math tells me about 30 games left. I think on the dot, actually. I think 30 games.
Well,
Andrew,
we 78, 55, so that's you're
30.
probably just under 30 games. So probably 29 after today.
Andrew,
Because
where do you think we end the season when it comes to that win column?
so you got 3 left in August, and then so yeah, you got 29 games left. I'm gonna go. I'm gonna say 97.
That's so tough. I mean, that's great. Don't get me wrong, right? That's great. But I looked it up at the All-Star break because I think it was FanDuel, maybe other sites too, had them at the over win column for the year at the All-Star break was 100. Uh, and the Phillies were on pace to beat 100 wins for the first time since 2011. But I do agree, I don't think they make it.
As much as I wanted to give him 100, that would be going 22 and 7 down
That's
the
what
stretch.
like it's I mean, it was the slump, dude. The slump had an impact on that run. I
And
mean,
that's why it's so hard to get to 100.
and
I mean that.
exactly. And look, the
I will
2011
say this.
team didn't go win a World Series, so it's not like it's crucial to that. Like we haven't done it in a while. This team has been on fire this year. I would have loved to see it. But I agree. I don't think they hit 100. Um, Now, this all being said, we already talked about the importance of taking down the Braves this weekend. Uh, we've talked about potential playoff fights coming up in October. Um, as it stands now, if I understand correctly, we avoid the Braves in wild card weekend. How likely do you think we hold on to that? Because I personally believe we absolutely 100% need to not play them wild card weekend. And here's why. Here's why. Because I'm a man of science, but when it comes to sports, I'm a man of bullshit sorcery that exists. And that storybook sorcery tells me the last 2 years, the Phillies have gone in the wild card and beaten up the Braves. If you flip it this year, we're in trouble. We're in trouble. So, Andrew, do you think we avoid the Braves come October?
That's just tough because hopefully you hold on, right, to the 1 or 2 seed, right? We talk about being tied with the Dodgers. So worst case is hopefully you can hold on to the 2 and you don't let the Brewers jump you at minimum. So then you're getting a first round bye and you avoid the wild card weekend as a whole. So I'm hoping that's the case, right? Hopefully you can close that out. And then you gotta weight your winner based off the winners of the wild card series. So again, hopefully that's the case, right? So I'm gonna say yes. I think the Phillies end up with the number 1 seed in the National League. Um, I was gonna say this my last point, but that's when you ask for the win total. The Phillies have a light September. I'm not gonna say it's easiest, but you should be able to take care of business. Um, after Atlanta, you go Toronto, who's in last place. Miami's in last place. The Rays are a struggling 4th-place team. Then you got the Mets, who's in 3rd, hovering around 500. Your toughest is obviously the Brewers. That's what's going to come down here to your
That's the
point.
hardest one.
If you
Yeah.
can avoid that, you go take 2. Shout out to Reese Hoskins out there in Milwaukee. But we're going to have to beat up on you. Sorry. And then, again, the Cubs, struggling team. And then again, the year with Washington, another struggling team. So a favorable schedule there helps you keep that top 2 seed in the National League. And then you look at the division series where you don't know what's going to happen. You also don't know where Atlanta is going to finish in terms of they're going to get the 3rd wild card spot. Are they going to get up in the top 2? I will say this. I get your science, right? I get it. But, I might regret saying this in a few weeks. But I want the Braves. The Padres are really
Andrew, never want them. Never want them.
the Padres are a really good team. They got a lot of talent on that team. That's who's in the 2nd wild card spot. And then Arizona, they're a team we saw it. You just lost 3 out of 4 out there. You've struggled against them. They're the number 1 wild card team right now. So and then the other team you face potentially would be the winner of a Brewers Braves because it's going to be the Brewers who are the 3rd division winner against the Braves. Now you're looking at a division winner team possibly, and a team that's got good pitching and good hitting as well, and a former friend of ours who's going to look to beat you up in that series. I don't know. I honestly, if you're asking me my choice out of those 5 teams, I kind of lean Atlanta, if I'm being honest.
I will say my kind of in summary is October sounds pretty darn tough.
That's the fun. That's the fun of the playoffs.
Regardless.
I mean, yeah. No matter who you play, it's going to be tough. And I know everyone wants to say World Series or bust because of the start you had and the talent on this team. But it truly is tough to say that. Like that's why I'm always playoff or bust because yes, the team should easily be in the playoffs. But it's tough when you get in those series. We talk about it. Chris Sale's a Cy Young contender. Ronaldo Lopez, if he had enough innings, if you get matched up in a 3-game series, anything can happen with those 2 guys. Same thing with us. Right? That's why you were able to get to the World Series 2 years ago. Is because your pitching was so good. And that's what makes October so tough, and let alone, right, National League Championship Series. If it's Phillies Dodgers again, you got to go against Ohtani for 7 games. You got to go against the Dodgers. Like, that's going to be a fun baseball series, but it's going to be stressful for Philly and LA fans.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't man, it really doesn't. There is no easy matchup, that's for sure.
No, that's why you gotta get that bye.
Yeah, I agree. All right. Well, I think that about wraps us up for Phillies. It's pretty late, but let's do a quick Eagles. Andrew wanted to talk a little bit of roster talk. Um, I just kind of like we'll do a little something on Monday, and but do I guess your overall thoughts right now before this will get published for Friday probably. So just FYI.
Yeah, I mean, overall, I didn't think anything was too surprising.
Except no
Once
backup
final,
center. Did I hear that correctly?
that is true. Yeah, Eagles love to mix and match their linemen, and I mean, when you got Jeff Stalin, who's one of the best in the league, if not the best, I guess you got to put your faith in him. I mean, he's done great with what he's built. We've always had one of the better offensive lines, so you got to have faith in that. To that point, I think Brett Toth maybe was the one of the more surprising ones. I thought he'd make it. He'll probably go on the practice squad eventually. Um, so he was a little bit surprising. Zach McPherson was not necessarily surprising, but a little disappointing because you just drafted him a few years ago. And then Anaya Smith, that was the big one. Apparently, he didn't have a great training camp, but then he gets put on the IR, so you lose a draft pick there. But at least that was your way of finding him a spot on the team still. Um, and let's talk about the big one, which forced two veterans out of the team. Meaning in the offseason, you signed Paris Campbell and John Ross, two veteran receivers that you expect to fight for that third spot. So I don't know if it was a trade that came up for this team or they just had that bad of a training camp where you had to make a trade. But, Howie made the phone call. It seems like every year he makes a trade right before the season. And this year it's Jahan Dotson, a former first round pick out of Penn State just a few years ago. And you know what? He had a lot of hype coming into the draft. I remember thinking if he's available, he'd be a guy I wanted at some point. And now you pair him as your third receiver. I mean, this offense, I'll tell you what, Jalen Hurts doesn't have any excuses this year. Like,
Yeah,
I know
I
we always
agree,
joke about
man.
that, but you got Kellen Moore coming in as the OC. You got Saquon Barkley as the running back. You got AJ Brown, Devontae Smith, and now Jahan Dotson at wide. Like, I'll say right now, it's the best trio wide receiver in the league. You could argue the duos, between Brown and Smith, but now you had Dotson as the three. This is the best trio receiving group in the league. And then not only that, you got Dallas Goedert at tight end. So I mean,
Right.
you can't double team anyone. Like, honestly, you can't double team anybody on this team. You double team somebody, it's going to leave Smith. It's going to leave Brown. Dotson can go deep, run deep balls too. Like, you don't have much leeway on this team. And here's the thing too: you pull a safety to go on a guy on the receiver. Now you run the ball to Barkley, right? So it's going to open up so much for this team. This offense is going to be fun, and this is a great way to get fans even more excited going into the year if they needed anything more, because we want that bad taste from last year, the way that ended out of our mouth, and this does it for me. Like, this is exciting, and all you gave up was a third round pick and two seventh round picks, and on top of Dotson, you got a fifth round pick. So on paper, this is a win. Obviously, you got to watch it play out, but this is a win.
I agree. On paper, it's all great. I actually heard someone say on paper, this is. I mean, we made the best moves in the offseason in our division, like hands down. I think I'm gonna save most of my thoughts for the next episode, which I'll tease. We are gonna do a sole Eagles talk, maybe with a little bit of Phillies, because technically it'll be right around the end of the Brave series. But we're gonna do some Eagles talk that'll come out next week before the Brazil game. But I will say, just kind of, I know it was a joke, but I'm gonna kind of seriously add to what you said. Uh, you know, the light's on Hertz right now. The spotlight is on Hertz. I don't know if the seat's hot yet, but he's got no excuses, man. You said it and like jokes aside, it's serious. Like you you proved yourself, in my opinion, in the past 2 years, specifically the first year, but I would say the start of last year as well. Hertz is a very capable quarterback. He's definitely better than a lot of people. He's better than Kenny Pickett, who was the starter of the Pittsburgh Steelers and is now your backup. Like all this. Like, he is a good starting quarterback. And I just this is it, man. The only difference this year is you don't have Kelsey. Like that is like you have the best weapons you've had. I mean, oh my God, you even like you drop it and it's like it's so like common said now, but like Saquon Barkley, that won't get old. Like we have Saquon Barkley on this team, man. Like the running isn't on you. Like so we shouldn't even be doing the whole like Hurts running the ball thing anymore, which he's proven he doesn't need to do. So I know I'm getting worked up because that's the Eagles fan coming out, but I'm excited. I think Hurts has a lot to prove, and I think he is certainly the table is set, and it's up to him to do it. And I'm excited.
No, I completely agree. I completely agree.
All right. Well, that's going to wrap it up. I am tired, sweaty, and gross, and I want to get to bed. Thank you, everyone, for listening to Philly Sports Now, a Philly Fan Podcast. You can find us on Twitter, YouTube, Spotify, wherever your sports media needs can be met. Thank you, everyone, again, for listening. I'm Zach. That's Andrew. And let's go beat the Braves. Go, Phils. Good night.
E-A-B-L-E-A-B-O!